talking about plants. So this guy in front of us, his horsetail, really abrasive, has a lot of silicon dioxide in the cell wall. So in layman's term, it's just kind of a tough, fibrous plant. And the benefits of it is that it's got its own water content. Down at the base, you can tear it up. It's a very watery plant. Sometimes there's actually water pooled up in it. It's a good way to just get a quick little sip. But and that water is a good an eye flush. If you have eye irritation or something, an infection in your eye, it's good for eye drops. But it's abrasive, has its own water content, excellent for cleaning your dishes when you're camping. Just take this and scrub your pan. You got a scrubby pad from nature. Edible too when they're younger, before they really I don't think I'll be able to find one. They're all kind of past prime, but they are edible, and I like them pretty good if you can find them young enough to be tender. They're also, the natives used it to polish wood, so there's a lot of good uses for it. Miners, people who mine for minerals, look for this plant as an indication of where there's minerals in the ground, high levels of minerals in the ground. These plants really like it. They really like really crappy soil too, but that's not the case here. We got a lot of good stuff in the soil. But this is a stinging nettle, and if you notice, this doesn't sting you on the top of the leaves. A lot of people just don't know this, that there's no stingers on the stem or the top of the leaves, even to the point where I can pick it, I can fold it in on itself, and eat it like that. So only the outside of the leaf is exposed. If I chew this up, it don't sting you. The seeds, these are the starts of the seeds. They are a mild stimulant, but I want to give caution, because sometimes when I eat these, it goes just fine, and then sometimes they sting me, and I cannot figure out why. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. I've looked really close. It doesn't seem to be like the maturity level of the seed. I really don't know. This is one of my favorite plants to eat. Let's see, here's a good representation of it. This is Siberian miner's lettuce. It's not always in flower, but it is now. And the whole darn plant is really crunchy. Not like crunchy, but crisp. And a lot of liquid in it. It has a salad-like, or a lettuce-like flavor, like a really juicy lettuce leaf. It's quite tasty. Yeah. Down here, there's a bunch of water that's flowing down through this little canyon area. And I want to show you guys something that's particularly important, because there's a handful of plants that look like this. It looks like it's in the carrot family, and we do have wild carrots out here, which is also Queen Anne's lace, but this is a water hemlock or poison hemlock. And a little bit of it can kill you. As a matter of fact, most of the toxins are right at the base of the stem. So that little chunk right here, a cubic centimeter of that is enough to kill a full-grown person. This is the same plant that Napoleon tried to kill himself with. Not Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon, I should know his name. The guy that tried to take over the world a long time ago. He ate this, but his story goes that his he thought so highly of himself that even though he was a very short man, he thought that it would take a massive amount of this stuff to kill him, because he's just above and beyond your average person, which he proved to be. He changed history, left his mark. But when he ate this, he ate a bunch of it, and it caused him to throw it right up right away. He was trying to kill himself, and it didn't kill him at all, because he thought so highly of him that he was so hard to kill that he ate enough to where it created a throw-up reaction before much of it absorbed into his system to kill him. Wet. These little clovers are some of my favorite. Little sour clovers. They're not clovers at all. They're sorrel. Wood sorrel. Here's more of that. Miner's lettuce. The sour clovers, call them sour clovers because they look like clovers and they taste like Granny Smith's. Nom nom nom. This right here is a salmonberry plant. But if you clip it, it's a butterfly. It's kind of fun for kids. My daughters think that's pretty cool. You can see the butterfly. You just take off the front leaf. And then you get yourself a pretty little butterfly. Cleavers. Tons of uses for cleavers. The stuff. It's I like to call it gotcha grass because it just like sticks to you. It's also called bed straw. You can find big bunches of it. Stuff use it for bedding. That's what the old pioneers used to use. It was abundant and it was fluffy. It worked. But the natives used it for straining sap, like their tree resin, when they're trying to make their glues. They use many other applications for it, but if you need to purify your tree resins, or not purify, but strain your tree resins, this is great for it. It's also used, this stuff grows all around the world, and in Sweden, where dairy products are huge, they would strain milk through this. And it's also, I think it's more of a wives' tale, but if you eat this stuff, it can increase milk production, at least in cows and goats. Don't know how true that is, but I know an old lady who takes this, dries it, and pounds it out and makes flour out of it. The whole plant's safe to eat. It gets pretty fibrous when it gets older, but when they're young, the tips of them make good salad additions. Tons of this Siberian miner's lettuce. This is just good stuff. But it's important to know some of the danger ones as well. This is, I think, it's Q-foil. And Q-foil is poisonous, not like deadly, not like the water hemlock. But, you know, if you're out here foraging, you got edible plant, all sorts of edible plants around this very not edible plant. And you make that mistake, it's good to be able to identify the ones that are toxic. So if you do make a mistake, you know which route to take to fix your mistake. Because there is antidotes, there is treatments for poisoning, but they're all useless if you don't know what you got poisoned by. A little bit more about brambles in general. I believe this is a low-lying blackberry, where over here we have salmonberry. But the fresh growth of these are edible, but they also make a good tea. Now, salmonberry is a type of raspberry, and raspberries have a sedative quality in them, so they're excellent for tea right before bed. They don't affect us very heavily, but oddly enough, they affect horses very heavily. They use use it as an herbal medicine to chill horses out. If you got a horse that's just a little crazy, they love eating the raspberry leaves, and it works really well to chill them out. But these leaves, if you need to, eat them just as they are. With the low-lying blackberries, the salmon berries, the tender young ones, they're soft. A good way to like rate if you want to eat it or not is the thorns, they're so small you can't hardly see them, but if you rub your thumb up the stem, the main vein of the leaf, you can feel the thorns catch. And really, that's your indicator. If there's thorns that are gonna poke you in your mouth is tender, then don't eat it. This one right here, lighter colored green than this. It's a nice light colored green. That's got a cool little caterpillar on it. But that's something you can just eat. The thorns are, if they're even present, I can't see them. And oftentimes they'll be too soft to poke you. They haven't formed any kind of rigidity to it. But I prefer, instead of eating them, sometimes you'll throw them in a salad, but I like the tea that they make out of it, or that I make out of it. All brambles, blackberries, all the fresh growth is edible and usable. This ground is super soggy. I mean, I already know that there's a creek running through, and shoot, it's like the iceberg effect. Only 10% of the water running through is on top of the ground. The rest is deep in the ground, and this could be an excellent place for me to find water if I needed it. Get a shovel out or just a digging stick. But here's another cool plant, one of my favorites. Horribly, they're difficult to deal with. There's a lot of pokies, and the pokies on, this is a Devil's Club, the pokies on it have toxins in them. And they're extremely springy plants. So like you try to walk through it and they'll swing up back and just whack you really hard, and it gets the toxins in you pretty deep. I've known someone who got sick from too much of it. It hit him over and over. He got stuck between a rock and a hard place and had to walk through a thick bunch of Devil's Club, and it messed him up bad. This is a good indicator of water. They don't grow where it ever dries out too thoroughly. So if you see this and you're looking for water, this is a good sign. If you're trekking through the woods and you see this and you're trying to make headway, it's best to avoid patches of this, because for one, you got soggy ground below you, and for two, these are just not fun to walk through. One of my favorite smells, though, is the inner bark. These things smell wonderful. There's so much medicine and power in this plant. The stems, I've been told, can help regulate blood sugar in diabetics. It works very well to lower your blood sugar. So, and if you don't dose it correctly, it works too well, and you get low blood sugar, which is very dangerous. You can go into a coma from it. So, the roots have their own specific qualities to them. I've noticed that they're really good for cordage, but how hard is it to dig up the roots? It's rather difficult. So it's excellent strength wise and flexibility. Kind of difficult to fuck with, though, to mess with. Lot of medicine in this plant. There's a lot of folklore surrounding this plant. Something I want to get more in tune to.